So hi everyone, my name is Sared Lara and I am the admin assistant to the school counseling department at the San Diego County Office of Education. Our wonderful presenter today is Miss Amy Scully, and she will be presenting the college and financial aid for undocumented students. A friendly reminder that this session is recorded and we will be uploading this information to the school counselor YouTube website in the future. Miss Scully, it's all yours.
Thank you so much. It's so great to be here with you guys today. My name is Amy Scully, and I am an immigration attorney, and I started an organization, a support program for undocumented students. Next year, it'll be 10 years. So when DACA first came out, we started a program, and we now work with a lot of high schools in San Diego. So this is, I love the opportunity to speak with school counselors because I don't know what it's like to be an immigrant, but I do know what it's like to grow up in tough circumstances and be the first in your family to go to college. My parents didn't graduate from high school, and my dad was a drug addict, and I was surrounded by a lot of negativity, and I felt very stuck, and I questioned, what I could make of my life. And this is a picture of me and my high school counselor. We still are friends, and we still keep in touch. And she, 20 years after high school, she came to my baby shower couple years ago. And so I just want you to know that your work that you do is very, very impactful. And I know that you must be overwhelmed on a daily basis, but when you let a student know that you believe in them, like my counselor did, it just makes a huge difference. And it's just the little things, she would just give me little bits of information about scholarships, and that just made all the difference in my trajectory. So I just want to thank you for all that you do, and know that it really makes a difference. And thank you for coming today to learn about how to best support undocumented students. They're potentially one of the most at-risk groups at your schools. So I really appreciate you coming today. And here's a picture too of our first Dreamers Club that we had back in 2012, and it was at the Preuss School. And now we work with at least 16 other schools. And we have just so you know, we have a three-pronged approach to supporting students. We support them in continuing their education and legal support through me as an attorney. And Kevin Scully, he heads our mental health aspects. So we support students with that, especially the last 4 years were very traumatic for a lot of our students and their families when we saw the increase in deportations and ICE activity. And so mental health became a very important component of what we do. So we go into schools, and we do usually pizza lunches, and each time we talk about a different topic. So it's usually DACA, the California Dream Act, and Know Your Rights. And we also have a scholarship program as well. We provide up to 10 students with a scholarship of $4,500 a year for 4-year, $2,500 a year for 2-year. And so you can share that information with your students. I'll give you all of that later, but and also for the California Dream Act, through our organization, students can reach out and schedule an appointment, and I do one-on-one Dream Act applications with the students. I love doing the Dream Act. It's just fun. It's different than law too, so it's nice for me. So I'll give you that information too, and we can knock it out in about 30 minutes. And it's a really nice to do the one-on-one thing too, because I get to know the students and can also identify if they have any legal options for maybe adjusting their status. So that's basically what what I do in a nutshell. And I want to reiterate, and I'm sure all of you seasoned counselors know that undocumented students can go to college and they can get financial aid. But even to this day, even though the California Dream Act has been around forever, even to this day, I still get questions from students asking if they can go to college because they're undocumented. So I just want to make sure that everybody feels very sure about that you can go to college and you can get financial aid if you are undocumented. And the more that you can spread that information, the better. So the problem that I see that a lot of counselors, a big part of our services too, is that counselors will reach out to me and have a question about a specific student confidentially, and they have questions and they want to know how they can help a student. And so I am available for that as well. And the problem that a lot of counselors and teachers and staff face is, how do we reach undocumented students? And I'm sure you've all heard that the saying that, you know, they live in the shadows. They're very afraid of, you know, talking about their status. They've been told since they were babies to not talk about it, not tell anyone. And we are prohibited by law at schools from asking about immigration status. So a lot of people, when they hear that and they learn that, they say, well, I can't help because I can't ask about their status. How am I supposed to know? Well, you can help, and you can do it without asking specifically of students if they are undocumented. One of the most effective ways that I have seen in outreach for school staff is very simple things, such as putting a poster in your office or your if you have a classroom or wherever your space is, putting a poster up, making sure it's visible, and so that lets students know, like, oh, this is someone I could come to with questions. And I recommend sharing resources, you know, taking an active role at your school with the lead counselor or the principal, and sharing resources with all students. So school-wide, when you do have access to a resource, say, for example, I'm coming to your school to speak about the California Dream Act or DACA, you could share that announcement school-wide and however you share information at school, and to all parents. So you don't have to try to, you know, figure out who is undocumented. You don't have to, you know, look up their records to try to see who's undocumented. Just share it with all, and hopefully those students and those families and parents who need the resources will reach out. And I recommend doing that regularly throughout the year, not just a one-time thing. There are some schools that we go to every week. Hoover High School, for example, we've been going there every week for the past couple of years, and it just because there's a big need, and it just has created such a wonderful sense of community there and a safe space at school where kids can come and get answers to questions that they've had their whole lives. And also for the California Dream Act, one thing that I do at some schools that are comfortable with doing this is during Financial Aid Day. So, for example, Orange Glen this Thursday is doing Financial Aid Night, and I'm going to be helping out with that. And I'm going to take all of the kids who are doing the California Dream Act and facilitate that. And, you know, it depends on whether you're doing it remotely or in person. In person, what I like to do is everybody knows everyone's sitting at their computers and we just answer the questions all together. And I bring alumni from our program, so undocumented students who are in college, and they're very familiar with the California Dream Act, and they can go around and help with students too. And I also like to bring a parent from that particular school who is undocumented, so they can speak directly to the parents that are there for financial aid day and let them know that it is possible for your son or daughter to go to college and address some of their fears and concerns. And so I just want to touch quickly on DACA, because I'm sure a lot of you are wondering what the heck is going on. We've seen so many ups and downs with this program, and it's been extremely frustrating. So DACA, you have to have been living under a rock to not know, at least hear about DACA, but DACA, what it is a federal program. It's not financial aid. It's not a California program. It's a federal program. And it gives those students a 2-year renewable work permit and protection from deportation for those who were brought to the U.S. as young children. So those are the types of students that we work with. And who would qualify? You have to be at least 15 years old and moved to the U.S. before turning 16 and have lived here since before 2007. And the thing with DACA is that what you will see this year is your seniors who come to you and say, I'd like to get DACA. Unfortunately, they are not accepting any new applications. So brand new student or brand new DACA recipients, so those who would like to have DACA for the very first time, aren't able to apply, unfortunately. They opened it up a couple months ago, and a lot of us who are working in the field, we had hundreds of applicants who already submitted their application. They already got their fingerprints. They did everything, and they were just waiting for the card to come in the mail. And then a federal court shut the program down. So it's been very, very devastating and frustrating for those students. And I suspect you will come across those students at your schools. They'll probably be seniors in high school, maybe some juniors, but probably seniors who actually went through the process of applying for DACA, and they got really far in the process. They did all the paperwork, everything, and then the program was shut down again. So this is so discouraging for them, and it's very confusing. So a lot of students say, so I was applying for DACA, and then the program shut down, and now I can't get it, so I can't go to college. And that's a common confusing point that a lot of students have, and even sometimes counselors too. But this statement right here is false. You don't need DACA to go to college. DACA does not in any way affect college or financial aid eligibility. You don't need it to apply or enroll or be in college, and you don't need it to apply for financial aid. DACA is only for a work permit. And so, and also just to clarify, some students get confused throughout the year too, is which application they should use. And this could be a PowerPoint presentation in and of itself, but the basic rule of thumb to remember is that those students who were not born in the US and do not have a green card or a visa, or if they do have DACA and they are undocumented, they will use the California DREAM Act application. And those students who were born in the United States and are US citizens, or they or have a green card or a visa, they will use the FAFSA. And so what's so important about your position as counselors is that for many, many students, senior year is when undocumented students have to deal with their legal status, their immigration status for the very first time. And I've seen that there are 3 key times in their life, and this is all usually during senior year of high school, when they're applying to college, they're applying for a driver's license, and they want to get a job. So all their friends are doing these things, and then they have to deal with the fact that, wait a minute, I am not a citizen. What does that mean? I don't have a social security number. All these things I'm applying to are asking for a social security number. And so this could be very, very stressful and scary for them and for their parents too. And so I think after doing this for almost 10 years now, the most important message to convey to those students is that you are not alone. Let them know that, there are thousands and thousands of other students just like them who are in college now and doing great, and they do have options, and that you will help them figure out those options and refer them to resources. And so, like I mentioned earlier, the application that undocumented students will use is the California Dream Act, and this is a California program. Every state who allows undocumented students to get financial aid for college, they have their own financial aid form. So Florida, for example, has their own. Some states don't even allow undocumented students to apply for financial aid, which is very tragic for those students. But California does, and it's called the California Dream Act, and it allows those students to get in-state tuition, which is so key for them to be able to even access college. And they qualify for the Cal Grant, which is the number one way that most all of our students are able to go to college, because it a lot of the time covers their tuition. And then they also qualify for university scholarships and grants, private scholarships, some, not all. And private scholarship would be, an example would be our scholarship as well. And there are others too, obviously. And then the community college fee waiver and the Dream Loan, and also a university loan. We'll talk more about that in a minute. But they do not qualify for federal financial aid like their friends will. So they'll start to hear about financial aid awards that their friends are getting and wondering why they're not getting any money, it seems like, because their friends are getting so much. But the best thing that you could do is help them not get discouraged and let them know that the Cal Grant is huge for them in order to cover their tuition. I see a lot of students too who high achieving students, so who get, have gone through high school straight A's, and they're undocumented, and they want to go to a 4-year, they want to apply to 4-year college, but they think that they can't afford it. They think that community college is their only option, and so encourage them to apply and see what their financial aid award will be, and not just assume that they won't get any financial aid, because most of the time they do. And so also, AB 540, you may hear of this term. I just wanted to put this out here because it's a term and people think, what is that? Basically all it is some people say, oh, she's an AB 540 student. And that means that they're undocumented and they qualify to pay in-state tuition before AB 540, which is just the name of the law that the California Dream Act came under. Before that, students had to pay out-of-state tuition, undocumented students. I know some dear friends who are now working as advocates in the field. One is an attorney and she's undocumented, and she put herself through UCSD paying out-of-state tuition. And so this is an amazing opportunity for them. So now they can enjoy just having to pay in-state tuition, not the triple out-of-state tuition. And the way they confirm whether you're AB 540, the colleges will send you paperwork to confirm that. So students will have to answer questions. They always have questions about those questions. So I get text messages all the time. What should I put here, Ms. Scully? What should I put here? Because it's asking about their status, and the questions are confusing. They they confuse like California residency with US citizenship, and residency is a confusing thing for a high school student to figure out. So you might get questions about that. And obviously, you know, I'm here too if you need any help. And for the Cal Grant, like I said, this is an amazing thing for undocumented students that they do qualify for. And a social security number is not required. And then, you know, I'm sure most of you know is creating a web grants. And I always have to encourage students to just make sure you keep checking that, check your web grants, make sure, see what's coming through and see if you have anything on your to-do list. And university grants and scholarships, the biggest thing about this area is that, you know, each university and college has their own, and they have very specific scholarships. So what I always tell students is always go to their website, just scour their website. And almost every university, especially the public ones, they have their own special page for undocumented students. And so this is great, and it's a great resource for those students to go and check out and see what options are available. I don't get too excited about, you know, sending them to the Undocumented Center and saying, oh, contact Cal State San Marcos Undocumented Center and they'll be able to help. I have learned the hard way that, you know, these kids are so used to doors being slammed in their face, and, you know, not being able to get answers. And so a lot of times I'm leery of sending students to resources and just thinking that, you know, they're going to get the help that they need. I mean, sometimes these little offices are overwhelmed, or they're so small and they don't have the resources to help every student. So if you can, the best way is to make a relationship with a local program provider that will help those students, and, you know, let them, so you can reach out to them and ask them, what are the good resources? And also there are private scholarships. The most important points I want to make about those is that students will get very frustrated because a lot of times the websites are outdated, and it's not clear if they require legal status. A lot of work for little money, like write this 20-page essay for $500. And like I said earlier, this undocumented students always feel like their US citizen friends who they have been in school with them since kindergarten, and they're very frustrated because they see their friends getting more financial aid than them, because some of the scholarships do require legal status. And so what I have found over the last 9 years, the most reliable source of information for private scholarship is through this link here, mydocumentedlife.org. It was started by Carolina Valdivia. She's now a professor at UCI, and she's a good friend of mine, and she's undocumented, and she went through school and college. She went to Harvard, and she did it all as an undocumented student. But she's very good at having the most updated information on that website. And also our organization offers up to 10 students per year, $4,500 a year for 4 years for four-year colleges, and then $2,500 a year for community college. So every year we're able to offer that. And the way students can learn about that and get involved is we have a private safe space on Instagram for San Diego undocumented high school and college students. It's at Swole Remote. It's on Instagram, and you're welcome to join too, so you can stay up to date on the information that we share with them. But that's where we send our students all announcements and notifications, and also about the scholarship. Student loans are also an option, but not a great option because undocumented students don't qualify for public loans like their US citizen friends. So they would have to take out a private student loan, which often requires a cosigner. So if students come to you asking about, I want to take out a loan, just know that it's not always the best option, and it's not just because they have to pay it back. It's also because it requires a lot more effort for them as an undocumented student, and a lot of times it's not a viable option. But one great option for student loans is the California Dream Loan Program, and every university varies and every college varies in how they run this program, how much a student can borrow, and the terms of it. So you would have to look at the school website to see what they offer, but usually the max is $4,000 a year. And I know lots of students who have done this, especially those who are going away from San Diego. They're going to college outside of San Diego, and they need money for living expenses. So this is a great option for them. And here's just an important little tip that it's very basic, but it's just so key. I swear, if I can make a sign that just says this, I would, don't complete the California Dream Act. So like I said, an important message to convey is don't do the Dream Act application alone. I've seen a lot of students, by the time they come to me for help, their Dream Act application is just all over the place. And I've seen a couple students where they make changes, a lot of changes to their Dream Act application, their answers, and a lot of times this puts a red flag on their application and they'll get selected for verification. So starting it for the first time with help is the ideal thing to do. And reporting parents' information on the Dream Act application and on the FAFSA for undocumented parents can be a very nerve-wracking, scary process. I've sat with parents who were just crying and just literally, I'll never forget the tears falling on my hands as we're working on the computer. Parents just so terrified, especially during the Trump era, of giving their confidential identifying information on this application. And so a big part of this is to reassure parents that the California Student Aid Commission, who runs the California Dream Act, they do not share information with immigration. And they have put out an official statement that says this. They could get in huge legal trouble for doing that. And in my experience, I've never seen them share that information. I know that we've heard about other entities sharing that information, other state entities such as the DMV, and the California DMV most certainly has shared information with immigration, but the California Student Aid Commission does not. And so one of the great things that you can do to help is to let parents know at parents' sessions and let them know that their information will not be shared because they have to share their address and everything. So, and then also that their legal status, the parents, does not affect eligibility for their son or daughter to receive financial aid. And so a lot of times they'll ask, what do we put for a social security number? Do we put zeros or an ITIN? And so here are the most common scenarios that we see. So I'd say maybe a little over half of the students that we work with, their parents pay taxes, they work, and they pay taxes they have an ITIN number. And so on the financial aid application, the ITIN number is what you would enter in for the parent, and you'd find that number on their tax forms. So before I meet with a student, I have a whole list of information that they have to have before we meet in order to do their application. And the ITIN is one of those if their parent pays taxes and their tax form. So we can pull the information from their tax form and put it into the DREAM Act application. Another scenario that we see a lot are the parents work, but they're paid cash. So how do I report their income? That's a big concern for a lot of undocumented students or students with undocumented parents. And it's tied to the last one too. So my parents don't pay taxes and they're paid cash, and they were paid over a certain amount. And I think this is too much because they probably should have paid taxes if they made this much. So how do I report this? This is such a big issue, you guys. This right here is what holds up most of our financial aid applications. And students are very worried about it. Parents are worried about it. And so if you have the information, this will help you hopefully in dealing with this issue. What you should look at is the IRS has certain thresholds. Here's an example of what it looks like online. You could easily pull it up on Google. So the IRS threshold for when are you required to pay taxes? How much do you have to earn in order to be legally required to pay taxes? And so you look up, you'll see if your filing status is on the side, you'll see most students that I work with, they're married, filed jointly. And so they have to file a tax return if their income is over $20,000. That could be a problem for a lot of students. So if you run into that problem, you definitely let the student know that you have resources for them, and you can feel free to send them over to me. What I recommend that you do is to really look into this with the student. So in other words, probably just send them to me because I know you guys are so overwhelmed, but it's helpful to, really ask questions of the student, say, or the parent, and say, so how much did you really make? Because a lot of times they just estimate because they have no records. They have no records of how much they made. They'll say, I made 50 grand that year, but I didn't pay taxes. And so, a lot of times when we get down to it, they didn't make close to 50. They were just guessing that. And a lot of times parents will say, well, they're basing it on like that they worked 365 days a year, and they forgot about those couple months that they weren't employed or that they had an injury or something. So a lot of times when you start asking questions and talk with the parents, you actually come to the conclusion that their income was actually below the IRS threshold. And that is a good thing because if you can't come to that conclusion, the financial aid department of the colleges will not process the student's financial aid. They will tell you your parent needs to file taxes, which can be a huge project and take much longer than it takes to apply to college with all the deadlines. So I would definitely, this is something that your students they run into this issue, they're gonna need help, and it is a big issue. So also for a lot of our students are selected for verification, and that is just when colleges ask for additional information to process their financial aid award. And the biggest thing I tell students is that it's okay, don't stress, this is very common. The universities are trying to cross all their T's and dot all their I's too, and make sure that they have all the information before they hand out an award. And so that's all they're doing. You can reassure the students that they're not being targeted. They're not receiving requests for additional information because maybe immigration now has their information. Is it because I'm undocumented? No. this is a very routine process, sometimes random. Students are selected randomly. And so what they need to do is provide a written statement explaining the financial situation. And so every student situation is different. So I can't say, what you would say in every scenario, but the biggest thing is the students will get this request for verification, and they'll get nervous and scared, and they'll sit on it and they won't respond. And for every day they don't respond, they could be losing out on financial aid. And so, if you have any financial aid days or you're giving out information, just encourage them. Don't ignore these requests, because it only will hurt you. And don't be afraid of them either. This is very routine. And so that's another reason why at the bottom here I say submit your financial aid applications early. Part of our program is we have our first push, get it done before Halloween. And then we have another push, get it done before winter break, which is when most of a lot of our students get it done, because we offer a lot of incentives and encouragement, especially doing it one-on-one. It's easier to do. So if you, because a lot of students do get selected for verification, you really want to encourage them to submit early, because it adds to the time that it takes to process their award. They'll hear about all their friends getting their financial aid and they haven't received theirs yet. And it's because the university needs more information. And so that's why we say get it in as early as you can. Okay, so this is the resource page for you guys. And so this Saturday, we are having our first start of the school year Zoom, and it's for all schools. Usually we'll do break it down per school by school, because it's nice for the students, they know each other. But this Saturday, we're going to do it for all schools. So any student at any school, high school and college, we work with college students too, they are able to attend, and their parents too, and ask questions. And there's the link there. I know that it was put in the chat as well. And it's this Saturday at 12. And we're going to talk about DACA, which many students are dying to know about. And we're going to talk about the California Dream Act. And we're going to talk about our scholarship. So they have an early heads up about that's an option. And we're going to talk about know your rights. So a big thing that we try to educate them, especially parents, is, what to do if immigration were to knock on your door. Our kids become the experts in it when they attend our sessions. So we do ICE skits and scenarios with them where I pretend to be the ICE agent, and they grow in confidence in how to respond if they did encounter an ICE agent. And then they become leaders in their community by sharing that information with everyone else. So we're going to talk about all those different issues. So please share that link. I made a flyer for it with all your staff, and families at your school and students at your school. And I like to emphasize all, because you're not targeting your undocumented students. You're not trying to identify legal status. You're just offering it to all, and whoever needs the resource will hopefully come. And then also the second, the bottom one is for the California Dream Act. So like I said, with one of the silver linings to COVID for our organization was we started doing the one-on-one Zooms with students to complete the Dream Act application. So students on this flyer, you'll see all the information that they need to reach out to schedule a one-on-one Zoom. And it usually only takes like 30 minutes because there is some background going back and forth about, asking questions before we talk and making sure the student has all the information that they need. But it's really great because they get it done right then and there, and then they're so excited and they get it done early, and so they feel really good about that. So please share with your staff and your coworkers, and obviously with any seniors or any classes that work with seniors. So AVID is a big class that we work with all the time. We come and speak in AVID classes. And so any students who are in that class who are undocumented, they get that information and they're able to get the resources that they need. And then here's my contact information. And it's just very simple. And we're all about, relationships and supporting you guys and these kids. They're my life. So, and I hope that this was helpful to you all. And if anyone has any questions, we could do it now, or you can shoot me an email. And don't be afraid to do that. I'm available. So,
Amy, we actually do have a question from Vanessa.
Okay.
Besides the session this Saturday, are there any dates of future sessions?
Oh yeah, we'll be doing them all year. We do it all year. So yeah, we'll and the way to find out about the sessions are to join that Swell Remote on Instagram.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's how we disseminate like all the information and all the updates and like, when our Zooms are going to be. So, and also if you want to email me and tell me to add you to our email list. So there's a group of counselors, there's like 25, maybe 30 that over the years we've been working with. And so I email them anything that's coming out. So any, Zooms or important information that these students need to know or opportunities. So just feel free to shoot me an email, Vanessa, and I'll add you to that if you want.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, sure. Yeah. Thank you.
Miss Amanda, please feel free to ask your question. Thank you for raising your hand.
Thank you. Amy, thanks for a great presentation. So I was just wondering, when kids get to college, are there any majors that you would kind of, steer them towards or kind of direct them towards that could be like most helpful, especially for the kids who couldn't get DACA, just trying to get them some like hope in the kind of like future planning?
Oh my gosh, that is such a good question, Amanda. It's like going the extra mile thinking for them. Thank you. And yeah, that is a big and important question because yes, there are some fields too that require you to have a social security number or citizenship in order to be licensed. Like a lot of students come to me and say they're going to nursing school, to community college, but at the end, they're not able to get their nursing license or they're not able to get the internships that they're supposed to get because they don't have a work permit. So, it's a tough thing. And unfortunately, I don't have like, a cure-all kind of answer for that because, it is without a work permit, it's tough. But there is a great organization called Immigrants Rising, and this is like their focus where they work with people on how to kind of start their own business or become independent contractors. And that's my favorite thing that I like to talk with students about is independent contracting because you don't need a work permit for that. You can become an independent contractor and sometimes be hired by, say you want to be a teacher, be hired by the schools as an independent contractor. And so that's sometimes the best way to talk with them about it, about, you don't need DACA or work permit to be an independent contractor. And also an important piece to share with them is that don't be discouraged about choosing a certain major because of the status of DACA right now, because we all know and have seen how the law changes on a regular basis. So DACA has changed a million times in the last, 5 years. And right now, Congress and the Senate are talking about a path to citizenship. And yes, we don't like to get our hopes up about that because we know these politicians are ridiculous. and, jerking everybody around. But DACA came into place. And there is a lawsuit challenging DACA being canceled again. So a lot can change with the law. And so I always tell students, right now, you can't get a work permit, but what you can do is focus on getting your degree. Because if the law changes, you will have that degree, which is way better than not having it. So, and for students who want to work during college, I always recommend like babysitting or, finding jobs for cash under the table. But I hope that helps.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Miss Amy. If there are any other questions, please feel free to enter them to the chat or raise your hand as we start closing this session. Thank you.
Thank you all again for coming. I really appreciate it. I always tell our students too that when people show up, they're like, wow, they care about us. That's so great.
Miss Amy, we're getting great messages for you in the chat. Thank you so much for this informative presentation. And as a true believer in your work and everything you do for our community, from my heart, I thank you.
Oh,
and you and your husband, thank you for everything you do for our students.
Oh, thank you guys so much. Okay. Have a great day, everybody. Okay.